The dangerous comfort of modern life. Nietzsche predicted this. We learned to tame our storms, and then wondered why the sky went gray. There is heat without fire now, light without mystery, pleasure without risk. We live in a century of gentle couches and confident weather reports, endless buffers against hunger, boredom, cold, loneliness, and even thought itself. But when you silence every alarm, you can't hear the one warning you that the house is on fire. And a man once warned that comfort itself would become the most dangerous threshold, not because it kills us, but because it makes us forget we are alive. He said it as a diagnosis, not a curse. He watched an age of certainty crumble, felt the old gods fall to pieces at his feet, and knew exactly what would rush in to fill the vacuum. Softness, sameness, safety worship. Not a violent tyranny, but a velvet one. Not chains, but cushions. He named a figure for the future, a shape of the human soul when greatness is traded for stability. The last man. The last man is someone who learned to stop throwing dice with destiny, who discovered the formula for happiness is to never want too much. He blinks, he winks, he shrugs. He keeps every desire at room temperature so nothing burns. And he survives. Look around. The last man is hiding under 1,000 different names. He wears noise-canceling headphones and calls it harmony. He scrolls through battles he will never fight and calls it awareness. He sets up a small, controlled climate for his emotions and calls it mental health. He is good, polite, tolerant, careful, insured. He sleeps well because nothing depends on him. He has every comfort and secretly feels nothing is worth the discomfort it would take to truly desire. And what is dangerous about that? Only this. A human being who cannot endure discomfort cannot endure meaning. It was not always like this. For most of human history, comfort was a fragile visitor that rarely stayed. The weather came for your crops. Disease visited without knocking. The earth trembled, and everyone in the village knew the name of the man who faced the storm first. There were seasons not just of climate, but of spirit, rituals that burned, ordeals that turned children into adults. The world was brutal and unfair, but it trained a certain kind of attention. It made requests of you that you couldn't decline. There were stakes. Now the weather is an app notification. Our hunger is scheduled. Our pain is medicated. Our risks are outsourced to professionals. And quietly, while we solved so much of what used to terrify us, a new terror entered through the service entrance. That nothing is required of us except to continue. If everything becomes easier, what becomes of the park of the soul that only grows under pressure? If everything is safe, what becomes of courage? If everything is available, what becomes of longing? The philosopher with the hammer felt this future in his bones. He knew the collapse of old beliefs would not simply leave us free, but stranded. With the heavens emptied, we would build our shelters here, become engineers of comfort, technicians of contentment. We would exchange the high drama of salvation and damnation for the quiet, steady drip of relief. And we would call that moral progress. But he did not despise comfort because he preferred pain. He despised comfort when it became a primary aim, when an entire civilization organized itself around avoiding intensity. Because in that case, comfort wasn't just a pillow. It was a principle. You could build institutions on it, educate children for it, measure success by it. And then what grows? A society that does not ask too much of anyone and punishes what asks too much of itself. Excellence becomes suspicious, Passion becomes embarrassing. Greatness becomes a nuisance to be managed. He wrote like a storm coming over a warm sea, and what he tried to say was simple. Beware the happiness that demands you become smaller. The last man is not evil. He is tidy. He is tired. He is content with contentment, and he considers it a kindness to insist everyone else be content too. No wildness, no suffering, no extremes, only the endless polite hum of the middle. Now imagine this hum in a waiting room that stretches across centuries. Screens glimmer softly. Everything is labeled. Guidelines are posted. The thermostat is perfect. You have water, snacks, information, entertainment, comfort, companionship. The door to outside is unlocked. You just don't remember why you would go. This is how meaning disappears, not in explosions, but in muffled pillows. And the one who warned us stands at the door, tapping the handle with his knuckles, asking us if we remember what it was like when a door was a decision and not an option. There is a forbidden thought included in his warning. It is that the last man is safe, but profoundly endangered. Nothing threatens him from without. Everything starves him within. A human being is not only a creature that avoids pain, it is a creature that seeks levels, mountains within themselves to climb. And comfort, when it becomes a goal, flattens the landscape. You wake up and see a peaceful field where a mountain used to be. You feel relieved, and something irretrievable starts to die. God is dead, he announced, and it was not a celebration, but a coroner's report. The sky doesn't fall when you remove a ceiling. It simply goes silent. In that silence, you can hear the faint whir of machines designed to save you from every sharp edge. He wanted to know what kind of human being we would become in that hum. Whether we would invent out of ourselves the why strong enough to carry any how, or whether we would stretch the softest possible fabric over the abyss and call that progress, and never again look down. This is the threshold of our time. We conquered nature just enough to make a museum of it. We eliminated certain diseases and created new ones of the soul. We mastered supply chains and forgot how to yearn. We wrapped the world around us like a blanket and slept through the parts that used to keep us awake. But staying asleep is not the same as being safe. And if you can feel the soft tyranny of this world pressing down on your lungs, the man who predicted it will hand you a hammer, not to smash the machines, but to test them, to hear whether they ring hollow. If comfort is the spell, then how was it cast? Not all at once. Like all successful enchantments, it slipped into our moral language first. We changed the words we admire. We built altars to safety, efficiency, manageability, and called them virtues. A long time ago, he described a morality that prefers softness to strength, equality to excellence, and constant vigilance against pain. He called it the morality of the herd. Harsh name for a warm idea, that no member should be exposed, alone, tested, uniquely accountable, or uniquely dangerous. Herd morality is the safety net turned into a ceiling. It is the plaster over the rough wall that once invited someone to carve their name. You can hear herd morality in the way we praise people for being inoffensive. You can see it in the rituals of our institutions. Compliance training as catechism, risk assessments as liturgy, wellness initiatives as confessions and absolutions. We apologize for edges. We file them down. We learn to speak fluently in the dialect of caution. The highest compliment is not brave, not honest, not brilliant, but appropriate. In a world like this, discomfort is not a tutor, but a lawsuit. Failure is not a step in the dance. It is a hazard to be removed. What used to be arenas become laboratories. We control variables. We issue guidelines for the human spirit. We ask passion to lower its voice so the neighbors can sleep. We build systems so good at preventing harm that they call forth a new epidemic. Life that feels neither harmful nor helpful, only prolonged. And the metrics keep improving. He watched something like this unfold in the shadow of Christianity, then in the modern age's faith in reason and progress. He thought those projects taught us to love tameness in the form of virtues. Humility, meekness, pity, equality, all sacred in their place, all potentially disguises for something else. Resentment, the shadow of the spirit that cannot act and therefore condemns action. Resentment is not simply envy. It is a creative morality built by those who cannot climb, who redraw the mountain as a moral offense. It does not say, "I wish I could." It says, "No one should." Now watch how easily this logic quietly guides our lives. We raise children to avoid scrapes, not to heal them. We redesign play to be frictionless. We build education not around questions that break us open, but outcomes we can reliably measure. We grade curiosity. We standardize awe. We make sure nobody has to sit with the mystery and terror of the blank page for too long, because that might damage self-esteem. And then we wonder why we meet so few people who love the blank page. Step into the office. It is bright and kind. The chairs are ergonomic. The HR posters have soothing colors. There are reminders to hydrate, to take breaks, to speak up if you feel unsafe. There are also bright red lines around dangerous ideas. Not illegal ones, dangerous ones. The sort that have a way of shaking people awake in their seats. The new asceticism is not starving in the desert. It is fasting from the real until the simulated is enough. We have turned life into a spreadsheet of sensitivity, courage into a form that must be submitted and approved, risk into a compliance module. He knew that when we transfer the instincts of survival into moral law, we end up in a paradox. Strength becomes a liability. At the cultural level, it looks like a subtle distrust of ambition, of naked excellence, of hungry souls. We rebrand desire as pathology and name our deepest drives after syndromes. We enforce an invisible average and call it inclusion. We invert. We can only tolerate intensity if it is ironic, and we define transgression by wrapping it in jokes. Even our rebellions are pre-approved. Turn to the screen that lives in your hand. It can bring you any experience in a glow that never asks you to change. You can witness war without weight, ecstasy without aftermath, knowledge without commitment. The scroll is a river that never empties, and nobody drowns there because nobody actually enters. It is safe. It is also a slow erasure of hungers that make us human. He warned that a culture can be drunk on the Apollonian. Clarity, order, control, the brightly lit facade. Lose the Dionysian ecstasy, chaos, risk, and you lose the source that breaks you open to creation. And then you wonder why everything sounds the same. The suppression of danger is not neutral. It massages the psyche into a particular shape. Our jokes shrink toward sarcasm. Our heroes are ironic or dead. We don't know how to honor living courage, because honor implies a hierarchy. We have replaced initiation with orientation, and prefer the clean comfort of labels to the messy living through. Even our language works like a padded room. Therapy speak migrates into every argument. Goodness is measured by the level of softness in your tone. Moral claims are replaced with statements of harm. The result is a world where harm is both everything and nothing, where tragedy is reduced an HR issue, and heroism is suspicious for the way it casts a shadow. He told us that pity can become a disguised will to power, a way to control others by binding them to their wounds. When entire cultures reward the performance of injury and punish its transcendence, who dares to heal in public? Better to remain softly broken, morally safe, available for a cause. And the causes proliferate. Conflicts are curated like content. We can participate by signal, never by sweat. We know more than our grandparents could imagine, and yet we live inside without windows. The result is a life with fewer bruises and more pressure. Not from outside, but inside. You are promised everything and asked for nothing. You are entertained to the edge of exhaustion and sleep unsatisfied. You are praised for being harmless and wonder why the wild dogs of your heart still pace at night, scratching at a door you swore you would never open. He would say, "This is the will to power turned inward, circling the cage." What does the last man do with his force? He doses it. He medicates it. He manages it. He calls it by gentler names. But it doesn't disappear. It turns on itself. So the suspense gathers here. The more we succeed in smoothing life, the rougher our souls become with unspent energy. The safer we become, the more endangered we feel. The herd protects us from the tiger, but makes us painfully aware of every splinter. We watch ourselves for signs of discomfort, like doctors watch a patient for fever. We keep lowering the temperature of experience until desire simply can't survive in the room. And then we call in experts to ask where our desire has gone, and they gently remind us to hydrate and meditate and reduce stimulants after 9 p.m. We nod. We return to the glow. We feel the old godless sky waiting outside, and we do not go. He wrote for people who still might. He wrote to those who would rather have a soul with scars than a soul without shape. He didn't want us to reintroduce barbarism. He wanted us to remember how to be dangerous to our own mediocrity. Luxury is not the problem. Cowardice is. And comfort is the social order, the shining promise, the soft tyranny that makes cowardice feel wise. We have named this spell. Now comes the unsettling revelation. Comfort is not only a cushion, it is a command. It does not merely soothe. It structures our choices and judges our risks, and it does so with the authority of virtue. When he traced the genealogy of morality, he was not playing historian. He was hunting. He wanted to know who benefits from a world where comfort and safety are treated as sacred. What kind of person thrives when the highest good is to avoid intensity? Not the creator, not the warrior, not the saint. The bureaucrat thrives. The manager of feelings. The priest of the secular age, whose flock is anxious and whose sermons promise relief. This is the deeper cruelty of the soft order. It does not eliminate the will to power. It simply hides it in compassion. I only want you to be safe, says the institution that monitors every word and punishes what breathes too deeply. I only want you to be included, says the culture that exiles passion by calling it oppressive. I only want to protect you, says the policy that treats you like a child. It is love that feels suspicious, because it is love that does not allow you to grow teeth. Resentment is the secret engine. For those who cannot or will not endure suffering for something higher, the world must be redrawn so that suffering itself is the highest wrong, and the higher is replaced by the safe. The dangerous becomes the immoral. The strong becomes the unfair. The great becomes the suspect. He knew this move well. It began in the slave revolt in morality, a kind of alchemy where weakness turned into virtue by denying strength any right to exist. But in modern form, it is not a slavery of chains. It is a slavery of comfort. You bind your enemy by convincing them that their hunger is extremism. This is why our age moralizes almost everything and deepens about almost nothing. It is easier to forbid than to forge, simpler to regulate than to create. We make a world in which the highest act is compliance, and the lowest sin is offense. And then we live as if the human soul is a device that must not be overclocked. The result is not peace, but numbness. And numbness has its own price. It turns even joy into content. He offered a test, a thought experiment, more like a mirror than a doctrine. Imagine a demon leans over your shoulder and whispers that your life, exactly as you live it now, will recur endlessly. Every afternoon of scrolling, every polite avoidance of conflict, every careful decision to choose the safer path again and again forever. How would you respond? Would you curse the demon? Or would you say, "You are a god, and never have I heard anything more divine"? The doctrine is called eternal recurrence, but it is not about time. It is about the density of your days. Could you affirm your life if it included no exit from your choices? Under the rule of comfort, most of us would flinch. We would look at our gaze and see long corridors of avoidance interrupted by small treats, like candy scattered through a warehouse. He believed our task is not to find meaning, but to generate it, to stamp our character on the world with a pressure that leaves an imprint. The last man cannot press. He leaves only smudges. He is careful not to dent anything, even himself. Amor fati, love of fate. This is not submission. It is the art of saying yes to the whole. It means you don't negotiate with pain, as if pain is a clerical error in the universe. You decide to make something with it. You don't ask the world to remove its teeth. You grow your own. And then the revelations start to turn. Comfort is not an enemy when it is a rest on the climb. It becomes deadly when it is the climb. In that sense, what he predicted is less a catastrophe than a fog that slowly erases the path, until walking feels optional and the view from the top a kind of arrogance. There is more. The secular age did not merely glide into neutrality after the old gods died. It sprouted new altars, to health, to productivity, to progress, to identity, to data. Each promises salvation in this world. Each creates rituals, saints, heretics, indulgences. Obsessive tracking of sleep, steps, calories, tasks, moods. This is our new asceticism. The body is managed like an investment portfolio, the mind like a brand, the day like a dashboard. The old monks whipped themselves to purge desire. We tap our screens to train it. The difference is cosmetic. The aim is the same. Control, control, control. He would have smiled and sharpened his pencil. What looks like care is often fear in a good suit. The fear of the uncontrollable, the untidy, the unmetric. Our metrics become morals. Our dashboards become consciences. We behave well, not because goodness is demanded by something magnificent, but because deviation might lower the numbers. The last man loves numbers because numbers can be managed, and managed numbers reward him with a story of progress that asks very little of his courage. And yet something won't fit. The will to power bends and bounces, looking for an outlet. When it cannot ascend, it corrodes. When it cannot create, it criticizes. When it cannot conquer, it cancels. This is why our societies can feel simultaneously gentle and savage. No duel at dawn, but endless reputational warfare. No risk in the arena, but ruthless punishment for words. Violence is outlawed, and reborn as bureaucratic strangling. The spirit that cannot bear intensity invents 1,000 small controls to make sure no one else can bear it either. He warned that a culture guided by herd instinct would be brilliant at preventing catastrophe and terrible at producing greatness. Its art would be smooth. Its thinkers would be careful. Its leaders would be administrators. Its schools would be factories of certified safety. And at the edge of it all, a small group would either suffocate or leave. He hoped some would leave, not to found communes or burn down libraries, but to live as a living disagreement with the soft empire. The startling thing about his prediction is not its accuracy, but its intimacy. He knew this would not simply be out there in policies and politics. It would end up in our rooms, in the way we moderate our feelings, choose our lovers, design our friendships. A whole generation might prefer a perfectly painless text thread to an actual argument, a perfectly curated intimacy to the rawness that bonds, a manageable companionship to a love that might ask them to change. Comfort is not just the temperature in your apartment. It is what you choose not to say so that the climate stays even. So the revelation is double. Comfort is both a social order and a self. We carry it around like an invisible thermostat, constantly adjusting, constantly smoothing. We are our own HR departments, filing internal reports on our own impulses, disciplining ourselves for passion. And every once in a while, the thermostat breaks and we burn, and it is terrifying, and also it feels like waking up. Now we have to look at the cost, not as a policy memo, but as a human story. Take a man whose life is immaculate. He lives in a city where winter never really arrives. His job is mostly thinking about things other people have already thought. His body is taken for a daily walk by a wearable device that praises him when he hits his numbers. He eats carefully, sleeps approximately enough, has an affectionate partner, a manageable child, a playlist for every mood, a therapist who speaks to him in soft tones about boundaries and oxygen masks. He has been sad, like everyone, and he has learned to manage that too. He is not ungrateful. He is simply haunted by the suspicion that he has never once risked anything that mattered. Sitting in the half-light of his very nice living room, he wonders, would I take a punch for something? Would I tell a truth that would cost me my tribe? Would I alter my life if a door opened that led to a terrifying height? He is not sure. And in that uncertainty, he feels a shame that is older than any policy. The shame of a hunter who has never hunted, a sailor who has never sailed beyond the harbor. He does not want to be cruel or reckless. He wants a storm to deserve him. On a morning that feels like any other morning, he leaves his phone on the kitchen counter and goes outside. The sky is a pale bruise. The air bites his throat. There is no path, only space, and for a moment, the perfect simplicity of it tears something in him. It is not a grand epiphany. It is a quiet revolt. He is not going to become a myth. He is just going to walk until the air makes demands. He is just going to allow himself to be unaccompanied by data. And in the unmeasured hour that follows, he begins to feel not happy, but alive in a way that hurts. This is not a prescription. It is an admission that the soul is not a houseplant. It does not thrive in stable temperatures and filtered water alone. It needs shock and night and the possibility of being uprooted. The ancients knew this instinctively. They built rites of passage with danger woven in. You faced something that could defeat you, and in that meeting you became someone who could be trusted. Our culture stretches a layer of foam over that encounter, and then sells us simulations of the feeling. We tame and privatize our rights. We call a cold shower a trial. We call a digital detox a pilgrimage. We are not wrong. We are just thirstier than we admit. He would not have you chase suffering. Pain that teaches nothing is not noble. But there is a kind of pain that arrives when your life has been too careful. The pain of underlived strength. It is a tightness in the chest that does not yield to comfort. And the worst thing you can do when you feel it is to ask for more cushions. It is not a symptom to be managed. It is a demand. It is your life reminding you that you are not made to be harmless. You are made to be dangerous and good. Goodness in this world is not the same as niceness. It is power that has learned its shape. It is a blade that stays sheathed until the right moment. It is a person who can look at the worst of their own nature, breathe, and make something with it. Herd morality teaches that power is by definition violent and must be diluted. He teaches that power is the raw material of character. Strength without direction is cruelty. Direction without strength is sentimentality. The human task is to fuse them into a spirit that creates rather than complains, that risks rather than resents. Consider art. Art made in a soft empire tends to be clever and inert. It winks at you. It says, relax, this is a performance of transgression with no consequences. It does not ask you to change. The art he admired burned. It made its own law and then paid for it. It did not care if it was safe. It cared if it was true. To make such art, you must risk being laughed at by the very world that cares most about your likability. You must risk being alone. You must risk failing in full view. The last man cannot afford that, because he has traded transcendence for approval. Every creator knows the moment when the work demands a sacrifice. Our age is organized to intervene right before you make it. Or consider love. Love is the most dangerous thing we do that does not require weapons. It asks you to place your heart in another's hands and to hold theirs in return. The herd would prefer transactions. Predictable, recoverable, adjustable, cancelable. Love is not a contract. It is a vow. A vow has teeth. It can bite you. It can also transform you. In the soft empire, vows are suspicious because they make claims on the future. They are not easily managed. They threaten the climate control of the self, and yet every love worth having comes with weather. Without storms, nothing roots deeply. He believed in a great health, not the narrow health of numbers, but the robust exuberance of a soul that has been through weather and learned to sing in it. Great health cannot be achieved through the elimination of risk. It arises when you stop arranging your life to prevent every sting and begin to arrange it to cultivate strength. You cannot buy it. You can only earn it by carrying what is yours to carry. You will still feel fear. You will still be harmed. You will be harmed in a way that taught you how not to be smaller. There is grief in this, because the dangerous comfort we inhabit is also what protects us from very real monsters. We are not wrong to be grateful for antibiotics and bridges that do not collapse and air that does not poison our lungs. The point is not to abandon the achievements of our age, but to stop worshiping them. To remember that safety is a tool, not a telos. A culture that mistakes its tools for its purpose becomes excellent at making and poor at becoming. So what do we do with the last man within us? Do we mock him? That would be easy, and it would be resentment in another mask. Instead, we learn to starve him with kindness. We give him a seat in the house, and do not let him lock the doors. We turn down the thermostat when it makes us drowsy. We ask our days, would I live you again? If not, what must I risk to be able to say yes? And then we take a step that endangers our self-contempt. He said, become who you are, not discover. Become. That line terrifies a culture arranged to help you avoid the work of becoming. To become is to pass through a furnace. It is to pick a fight with your own inertia. You cannot do it while protected from all drafts. You must open a window and let the weather in. You must choose a hill and climb it without asking for a guarantee that the view will be worth the blisters. You must pick up the hammer and tap the walls around you, listening for hollowness. When you find it, you don't smash blindly. You open a door. One day, perhaps soon, the fog will look like home. The hum will feel like silence. You will swear there are no mountains anymore. It will be so convincing that your heartbeat will begin to sound like an overreaction. And then, if you are lucky, something in you will rebel. A small, stubborn voice will insist that a life optimized is not the same as a life affirmed. You will feel embarrassed by the voice. You will want to correct it. You will scroll to see if someone else has written it more eloquently. You will find they have not, because some things must be said by your own mouth. This is the precipice the old philosopher wanted to lead you to and leave you at. He couldn't walk your road. He could only strip away the explanations that promised to walk it for you. He could not put the gods back in the sky for you. He could only hold open the empty air and ask you if you were brave enough to build your own altar, not to comfort, not to nothingness, but to whatever demands your yes. The dangerous comfort of modern life is not a curse imposed from above. It is a bargain we strike. We trade our edges for ease, and the exchange rate looks favorable until we try to buy something real. So choose your hazards. Risk an argument that matters and lose it beautifully. Make a piece of work that does not fit the criteria and stand by it until the room fills with silence. Train your body, not because you are afraid of dying, but because you want to live intensely, enough that your days leave fingerprints. Read the thing that could unsettle your certainties without hiding behind sarcasm. Love someone in a way that threatens your policies. When fear says you are about to become ridiculous, remember that ridiculous is a word invented by spectators. What would it mean to design a life for the eternal recurrence? Not as a metaphysical doctrine, but as a standard of dignity. What would you refuse to carry into eternity? What would you demand to carry, even if it cost you ease? Answer quietly, and do the next unfashionably hard thing. It will not trend. It might not be visible. The herd cannot help you here. It can only tell you to be careful. You do not have to be careful. You have to be worthy of your breath. There is a final image he left us, a rope stretched over an abyss. Man is a rope, fastened between what we have been and what we might become, trembling over the empty space where the gods once stood. The last man sits down on the rope and refuses to move. He calls that wisdom. He may live a long time. He may be beloved. He may die having never fallen, but he also never crossed. Do not admire him. Do not hate him. Be sorry for him. Then stand up and take a step. You will feel the abyss beneath you. Do not rush to make it safe. Let the wind terrify you. Let your legs shake. Then take another step, and another. The crossing will not end. It is made of steps. By the time you look back, the fog may have closed behind you. People will say there was never a rope. People always say that about rope they did not dare to walk. Keep moving. The danger of comfort is not only that it dulls us. It makes us forget that life, at its best, is a vow taken in the presence of risk. I will live so that if a demon comes for me at night and promises me an eternity of today, I will smile and say, "Come back tomorrow. I plan to make it worthwhile." If this opened your eyes, subscribe to Boring History, because the truth is never boring.